guys, it's Lily, and I'm back again with a long overdue update of my Hobonichi setup. So I use my Hobonichi Cousin as a work planner, and this is really my main planner. Um, when I started using it, I was just putting everything in it, and then eventually I separated the personal stuff out into another planner, which works really well because I kind of like having the division. So I know that everything that's in here is work related. But like that's kind of most things. So most of what I do is work related. So this is still like kind of my like sort of number one planner. And I'm using the cover that I got when I ordered this in February. So it's held up quite well. It's like kind of woven. It's getting a bit grimy, but I really like it. I might replace it with one of the new covers that's coming out. With the new Hobonichi 2016 lineup. But I'll see. The one that I like doesn't come out until October, so I've still got a month to think about it. And I've got two pens in the pen loops. This has kind of undergone several various different iterations. I've had a four-color pen in here, which I really liked, but I was actually only using two of the colors, black and red, so I kind of felt like it, I wasn't making the most of it. And I've had a highlighter here, but I think at the moment that what seems to work best is one black and one red, and I'll show you how I use them. So in the front pockets, I've really narrowed things down, although I think that maybe since I did this last video, I might have actually added more things. There was a time when I was putting a whole bunch of stickers in here. When I first got my Happy Scrappy and Paper Crafting Studio subscription kits, I was like, stickers! And I put tons of stickers in the pockets, and I'll show you. There was a period when I was using a lot of stickers, but then I decided that I'd rather just keep the sort of major decoration for my non-work planner and my family planner and just keep this like simple, because I have more stuff to plan in here and more stuff to concentrate on, so it was like kind of distracting. Anyway, so I've got the essentials. I don't actually even use these at the moment, but I should really, because they're quite helpful for pointing out like kind of essential things that I really have to remember. Usually like stuff to bring in with me from home to university, because I often forget that kind of stuff. And then I have the green Hobonichi stencil, which I only use one of these. I only use the tick boxes, but I use these all the time, so it's really good for that. And then these see-through appointment markers, which I love. And I got a nice big supply of these from Kawaii Tokyo on Etsy. So I have got probably like, I don't know, months worth of these. And then I use these in the monthly pages. I'll show you how. And then just got this bare sticky note thing here. This is just if I have to give somebody, like if I have to write something down, like an email address, and give it to someone. Then here we have, these are the ones that I was using because these are repositionable, so I just like put them here between uses. And then I've got this Secret Society of Vegans logo, and just some like motivational stuff. And then this is the 2015 yearly calendar, so I just cross off each week as it happens. In fact, I can cross this off. And then when the month is finished, I put one of these bigger dots over it. And then I just crossed off all of 2014. This is the vertical monthly layer, and I like to use these for like kind of at a glance being able to see what I've got going on in that month, and like kind of over the coming months what I'm going to have to do, because I have a lot of projects that have deadlines, like kind of coming up in the next few months, and so it helps to be able to see it like this. So originally I was just writing the main projects that I had to focus on for that month up here, and then when I ran out of space because there were too many things, I put more down here. But then I decided to divide it into events. So like, for example, these were places that I had to go either for a conference or for some other like kind of university business, some interviews, days when I was like teaching a summer course, that kind of thing. So it's like, this is places where I had to be, just so that I would know like, oh, this is what's going on in this month. Because sometimes in the summer particularly, when there's no regular teaching, I often like think, oh, I'm going to have loads of time. I'll have all of like June, July, August, September for research, and I'll get all of these projects done. And then I forget that I've agreed to do like 3 summer courses, and there are all of these other things happening that kind of take away days. So it's useful to be able to see this month I have to do all of this stuff. And then down here I put the projects that are just things that I'm working on myself. So like applying for promotion, which has been bumped back several months, and I'm actually finally just working on it now. Like taxes, a chapter that I have to do, a book review, another book review. Like, so these are things that can kind of get lost because there's nothing external forcing me to do them, except that like I have to get them done. And so then I did the same thing here. This was a summer course. And then these were the projects that I was hoping to be able to get done in the month. And then this is where I like kind of block out the time. Often this turns out to be wildly inaccurate, so I don't actually use this as much, but it is helpful, particularly like this R is for a Russian class. I've been doing a Russian evening class as a student, not a teacher. And so I've just kind of like marked off every one so that I know. So like, let's see. These 2 have happened, so there are only 3 left, and it's really useful to be able to see it like that. And then I kind of block out stretches of time where I know that I'm going to be busy with something. So I'm getting the second proofs for a book here, and I've just kind of blocked out the whole week, like I won't be able to work on anything else. But these are the things that I'm hoping to be able to do over the course of this month. And I don't have any like kind of events happening here. So that's how I've been using these, and I think it's really helpful having this as one of the spreads. And this just carries on for the rest of the year until March 2016. Then I have my monthly pages, and when I first started using these, I was using them like to write down I mean, this was during the teaching year, so I had a lot of stuff going on, like teaching and meetings and scheduled stuff. So you can see that this is really busy. And I was also writing down like kind of all of the like details of the things that I had to do every day. I would like kind of transfer them from the weekly to the monthly so I could see them at a glance. But then I started using it just for like actual appointments because it was sort of too much. I like the kind of satisfying feeling of crossing something off. So if I had it in the weekly and the monthly spread, I could cross it off in both places. But then I decided it's not really necessary. I really only need this for at a glance, seeing what I've got scheduled so that I know whether I can schedule something else on that day. And I decided that that's what it's best for. So here I was still writing down things that I had to do, like I had to print some materials, but I decided I shouldn't bother with that kind of stuff because that can go in the weekly pages. I don't need to see that in two places. It's not a to-do list. It's just like, what have I got going on that day? So this is like, I'm in Cambridge these 2 days. This day is like, I'm meeting somebody at this time. I've got my Russian class, like just the things that are happening, the kind of scheduled events. And so then that's what I've been using it for ever since then. If I'm at home all day, I've like put in, this is what I'm expecting to be working on that day. But it's mostly just so that I can see whether I'm available or not for something else. And I started doing, I actually started it on this month. I started with the big dots and then I switched to the small dots because I didn't want to sort of use up the big dots, because I started putting in a dot every day. So as soon as the day was finished, and that was the easiest way of seeing at a glance where I'm up to in the month. So yeah, so then I did that for the whole of July. And then I was color coordinating, so I was making it like kind of rainbedical. So I had to kind of look every day which color I'd put the day before, and that started to be a pain. So then I just switched to purple, and that's what I've got for August. So usually I leave it a couple of days and then I fill in a couple of dots, because often I'm busy and I forget to do it. But if I do it every couple of days, then I can see, like, here we are now. This is today. And that works really well, and it adds a bit of color, and it's not too much of a thing to do. And then here I also put in the major things that I'm expecting to be doing in that month, which is the same as in the vertical spread, but it's just, it's kind of it's useful to see, so that it's just another way to sort of like keep keep on track, like, you know, to keep constant reminders of what I should be focusing on. And then I also write here things that I have to remember to do in that month. So these are things that like come up. Say we were advertising for a job and I told some people that when the job advert came out, I would send it to them. But the job advert wasn't going to come out for another few weeks. So I could, and I wasn't sure exactly when it would come out. So instead of putting it in the weekly spread, which I would do if I knew exactly when to do it, I wasn't sure and I didn't want it to get lost. So I just put it in here because I check this quite regularly. So I was like, oh yeah, August, whenever this comes out, I have to remember to send it. And then I did when it came out. So instead of having to put it in like multiple places in the weekly pages, it's just easier to keep it here. That seems to work quite well. And then I do all of my like forward planning here as well. And like here I've crossed out, these are Jewish holidays when I'm not going to be working. So I've just blocked them out so that I can see at a glance, like I can't do anything there. That's Rosh Hashanah. This is Yom Kippur. That's Sukkot. Yeah, so this is really good for at a glance, like kind of practical planning. And then also I can see like how many days in the month I've got devoted to a certain thing, because this is where it's like kind of more concretely scheduled than in the vertical spread. The vertical spread is more like kind of ideally what I would like to be happening, and then this is actually how it works out. So I'm going to be on research leave this year, so I don't have as much stuff here because I'm going to be at home most of the time. Yay! And then I've got a conference in December. And here you can see my brief dalliance with stickers. So this is my birthday and this is James's birthday, but I gave up on that. And then I have, let's see where I left off the last time. I think it was around here. So in May. So I was marking off water intake, and then I stopped doing that because I switched that to my personal planner. So that was the sort of thing that you know, I decided is not really work related. And I think at this point I had just started using stickers. So I was marking these for appointments, and I attempted color coding at one point, and then I gave up because it was too complicated to work out like what was teaching, what was like kind of teaching related meetings, what was other types of meetings, what was, you know, like other stuff. So it was too complicated and I gave up on that. So now these are, at this point, I think these were just random. And what I tried to do, what I normally do, is put, let's see, here, put things that I have to do that day at the top, like tasks. It's kind of proper tasks, and then schedule events that are happening during the day. But I would also sometimes put in events like kind of at the sort of general time that I was expecting to have to do them. Let's see, I keep finding names on here. I thought I blocked off all of the names, so I'm trying to cover up any names that appear. So let's see, like, so this was a Jewish holiday, so I'd put that some people were coming to visit. There's names everywhere. Okay, let's go to the next page. All right, this is a good week because there's lots of stuff going on here. So the first thing that happened here is that I started using highlighters. So at this point, I think I had the black pen here and then the friction highlighter here. And it's actually kind of pointless in this sort of case using a friction highlighter, because if you highlight something, obviously you can't just erase the highlighting, you will erase what's underneath it as well, in my case, because I use a friction pen. So it might as well just be a non-friction highlighter, but you know, going with the whole friction vibe. So I was highlighting things that were like kind of extremely majorly important to get done, and then if they were like I was really worried about forgetting them, then I would put one of these on as well. So it'd be like do that, like print these exams, and then that would be like bang, remember to do that. And that worked quite well. The only problem with it was that I like having the red pen occasionally, so I decided that it was more useful having a red pen and not a highlighter because I could mark things with the red pen. So like see here, I've put a star next to this with the red pen. And then if I actually do it, the thing, then I can either erase the red or just cross it off. And that seemed to work as well as the highlighting because it's red, like your eye is drawn to it. And then sometimes I use a red pen for other things like marking students' work. So it's easy to have, or proofreading type stuff. So it's good to have the red pen. It can do things that the highlighter can't. And then I started marking off appointments that were going to last for more than an hour with the big dots, and ones that were only going to last an hour or less with the small dots. And that works well because it's like you can kind of see at a glance, is this something that's going to take a lot of time or not a lot of time? I would also, if I knew exactly how long it was lasting, then I would block it off. And that's what the Hobonichi grid paper is really good for. You can see like this is my Russian class. Starts at 6:30 and it goes until 8:30. So I've just like kind of marked it off there. But so this was, I think I put this sticker on before I started using this system, but in later weeks, this is the same, this is a Russian class, so in later weeks I would put this on with a big sticker. Let's go back to what's happening here. Okay, so yeah, that's how I use it. So but I would also end up doing making to-do lists in the timed sections, just because it's kind of, there's more room and sometimes there's open spaces, and so like this is all to-dos, and I mark off each to-do with one of these, with one of these little, see if you can see that, the ones on the left, that are the same size as the Hobonichi grid paper. So that's really convenient because you can just make like a whole list of like 6 to-dos on that. And I don't actually tick them off, I just cross off the whole thing when I'm done, because visually it's easier to see when it's done somehow. If I see that it's all crossed off, I'm like, okay, I definitely don't have to do it. Whereas if it's just ticked, I kind of still feel like I can still see that thing, and I like crossing it all off. But I like having the tick because if you have something that goes over more than one line, and these lines are kind of narrow, so often that happens, it's easy to have the tick because that the tick box, because that shows you where the next task starts. So the only problem with that is that sometimes I would then end up actually having to book a timed appointment where I'd already written stuff. So I tried to get out of the habit of that, but at this point I was still doing that. Okay, now you can see where my Happy Scrappy subscription arrived. This was the first Happy Scrappy subscription, and I started using stickers here. So you can see that this is looking quite different. So I was like, yeah, stickers. And then I got a stamp here. This is from the paper crafting studio, and stupidly thought, I was like, I will stamp this. And then it showed through, and oh, it's very, very sad. So this was an unfortunate week. So yeah, I was like kind of trying to put appropriate stickers here. So this was our departmental away day. So I put this on to show that this was like an all-day event. And then I had this alarm clock for like kind of when it started, and then like going to the cafe, and that there was going to be some shopping involved. So that was kind of fun. I liked it. And I don't think it looks bad. This one looks a bit messy, but then I started putting on some more, yeah, like, so then I got these stars, and I was putting this type of sticker on for whole day events, and then still like kind of these were to-dos that were happening in the middle of the page. I mean, like in the middle of the day, so I would put them on there so that I would kind of look, like I would look in the right place. Yeah, but like I said, sometimes that kind of goes wrong because you have to then check other stuff. And I was still using I mean, it's not like overboard with the stickers, but they're, it's much more like, compared to how it was before, it's kind of a lot busier. And I was quite enjoying that, because then I was like, this is happening, this conference is happening all of these days, and then like this is an open day. And then I started using sticky notes as well for like extra things that I had to do. So sometimes I would be like, oh, I don't know where exactly this fits. And at the time, this was before I was using my personal planner for like non-work stuff. So I was putting on some things that weren't work related here. This was like kind of the beginnings of the concept that I should separate out non-work things. This is Saturday's Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, which I normally have off. so nothing really goes on there. So I was putting some, like I put a sticker there. And this was a summer course. So this is all from Happy Scrappy, and some of these are Paper Crafting Studio. So yeah, this is like, I kind of felt like here, like it started to get a bit busy. And it was starting to get a little bit distracting, especially because by this point I'd started doing a lot of decorating in my home planner. So you can see this is like really, really decorated, and I like that because there are not as many tasks here. So it works very well for decoration. So I was kind of like getting my decoration fix, and I started feeling like this is just kind of detracting from the pure work ambiance. Not that it really matters, not like that anyone would be horrified at, you know, at work with me having this like kind of planner full of stickers, but I just kind of felt like I wanted to go back to the sort of streamlined, just the information and the appointment stickers. So I had already by this point put loads of stickers on everything because I was like really enthusiastic. So I've got a few more weeks for those stickers, but I decided not to use any new ones. And yeah, so here I have like, these are all timed events. And then I started trying to be more strict with myself about just putting to-dos down here so that they didn't get in the way of potential planning. And then if it was a day when I was completely at home, like here I was at home and I had to, I scheduled that time for myself to get done what I needed, which was really useful because, you know, often when you're at home, you're like, well, like if you're working at home, and I've heard Miss Trenchcoat talk about this as well, that you know, you don't feel like you need a time kind of to schedule things out in blocks of time as much because you're like, well, I'm at home, I'll get it done. But it can be really useful, especially if you have like a really big chunk of stuff that you have to get through, which I did here. I was working through some like proofs of a book, and there was like a huge amount to cover each day. So like just to break down the task, I was like, okay, I have to do 100 pages an hour, say. So I kind of wrote out in time like what I have to do as if it were appointments, and that made it more helpful because even if I fell behind, I'd be like, okay, I'm this far behind. I have to make up this much time. I'll have to, like, you know, work on it an extra hour. And that was really useful instead of just giving myself an overall goal for the day and like saying, oh, I have to get through that in the day, and I'm at home all day, so it doesn't really matter when I do it. So that the having the timed slots is really useful for that. So I've started doing that more and more. And then here I was actually just using this as notes. This is another project that I'm working on, and this was because technically I shouldn't have really done this. I should have used the notes pages, but I wrote them here, and it was okay because I didn't have any appointments with that day. I was working on something, a project with a friend, a colleague, and all of this was all the same kind of stuff. Like I was basically working on sort of two different projects and marked out for myself each day, like exactly what I had to do in each time slot. And then the next week was the same thing. So you can see this is like a lot plainer. It's also kind of messy because I was using it for all of these calculations. This is all pages and word counts. Like this is how many pages or which chapters I have to get done in the day, broken down into time slots. And then there's some random notes on here as well, because I was at home all of this time, so it's like it didn't really matter. And then actual to-dos, just like kind of main overall to-dos, like I had to book some flights, talk to someone about something, they all went at the bottom. So this was all reserved for like kind of time-sensitive stuff. And then this week, I was teaching a summer course, and I'd already put these in like ages beforehand, because under my new Spartan regime, you know, I thought I shouldn't put in these. Not that I shouldn't. Like I don't know whose rules these are. Like they're just my rules. But I just kind of like having it look nice and streamlined. So yeah. So this was a summer course, but then I blocked off the times for each lesson. Hi, Tails. Tails has just come back from his walk, and he's very happy. So like this was the first lesson, the second lesson, this was an afternoon session, a homework session. So I'd never done this before, and just having the Hobonichi made it much easier to visualize like what you have everywhere in the day. this was our anniversary, and so I'd put this on beforehand before I decided that this was work only. Now, this was where I had the 4-color pen, so this was a brief experiment in color coding, extremely brief, it only lasted one day. So I put some stuff that was non-work related in green, and I thought, oh, maybe I can do it like that. And then I put like something that I had to remember to do in blue. And I just didn't really, I like the idea of color coding, but it kind of made me nervous for this. I like just seeing one color on the page. So I stopped that. And I almost went so far as to erase this because it was like bothering me that there were different colors of ink on the page, but I kept it just so that I could show it in the video. So this is all course and then extra to-dos. And then the week after it went back to what I was doing before, which is working at home with my friend on this book. And so I've got things divided down in the same way, like how much we had to do before lunch, how much we had to do after lunch. And yeah, this is all like the same kind of thing. So this is what I started doing here, is marking off particularly urgent things or things that I'm more likely to forget or miss in red. So instantly the eye is drawn to them. And that works well. So I don't use the red pen for anything else in here. I use it for other things, like I said, like marking and proofreading outside of the planner. But just for this, I use it for just for marking that kind of stuff off. So that's as far as I'm up to in the weekly spread. Then I like that. I think that system works well. I mean, who knows? It might change, but these are some stickers that I put in ages ago in the sticker days. Then the notes. So I've mentioned before when I showed you my previous setup video of this that I use the daily pages for notes because I get all of the planning done between the monthly and the weekly spread. That's really enough. So I don't need to use the daily pages on the day that it's fine just to use them for notes, but it's really useful having that space for notes. So it depends on what it is, and I kind of don't want to show too much of this because there are a lot of names in here, like of students and stuff like that. But basically, it varies a lot. Like, so it could be that I'll use like, in one day I'll use like three pages, or that, like I'll go a week without using any of these. But it kind of evens out. I've used up to, this is the current day that I'm on. So I've used, you can see, up to the beginning of July, and it's now the end of August. So I've got some extra room. So basically this is more than enough to last for the year. And I've blocked off the last month, using it as a reference section. But so even so, I'm kind of still 2 months ahead of myself. So like, this is fine. It will last for the rest of the year, and maybe I'll end up with a bit of extra space, but I think it will probably be about right. There won't be too much extra space. And it's really nice having that, because that means that I don't have to worry at all about economizing. And sometimes I'm so used to that, because my previous planners were like, it was always an issue not having enough room. So I would always like kind of, put stuff in really small places. And that's where like, there were these times when I made notes in here and I had to tell myself, like, don't write notes in the weekly page, keep the weekly page free for appointments, put notes in here because there's so much room. So I still have to remember to do that. And, like the idea of like, sometimes, let's see, just trying to find one without names. Everything has names. Well, like, okay, sometimes I only write something in the top and then the rest of it's blank, and that really makes me feel nervous and like I should really fill this before I go on to the next page. But why? Because at the end of the year I'm just going to archive this, so it's not like the paper is really being wasted. Like, I've got more than enough room. It's not like I can take the paper out and use it for something else, so it doesn't really matter. So I just kind of thought, yeah, whatever, I'll go with it. And just, it's kind of easier to have an individual topic per page, because then it's easier to see afterwards if where did I do that checklist. So this is a checklist of something that I have to write. it's on this page. I'm not using an index or anything, and it's not that hard to find things because I just flip through until I find it. So this can be anything, any kind of notes, any kind of anything that I'm not expecting to be permanent. Some things end up being more permanent and I have to go back and refer to them. But the idea is that it's just for kind of anything that I need to write down, calculations, lists, you know, like stuff that I'm working on at the time, anything. And it doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't, like, it's just anything that I want to write down. So I should actually go back and point out how I'm using tabs. So I was using the Hobonichi bookmarks, which are in here, these two. And in my last setup video, you can see I was still using them, I think. And I started to get annoyed with them because, like, for one thing, there are only two of them, and I use more than two sections in this. And secondly, I was always getting mixed up, like if I had this on the monthly and this on the weekly tabs, I was always, days, I was always getting mixed up which was which. And sometimes they got, like, I don't know, you have to open it from the bottom and then do this, and I don't know, I just found them annoying. So I eventually just put them back here, and so they're out of the way and they're not bothering anyone. And then I, just go to a blank page here. Then I experimented with various different things. I think that probably in the last setup video, which was a few months ago, I was using various types of bookmarks. And the problem with all of the bookmarks were that either they were too heavy because this paper is so light, that they would like kind of weigh it down too much and they would fall off. And if I sort of like grouped a bunch of paper together, then that just, I didn't like how I didn't like it. And then I was using clips, like binder clips, and that was okay, but there was kind of the same problem that it was like sort of like leaving marks on the page. You probably can't see them, but it was like, because I had to sort of, again, the paper was too thin just to put a binder clip on one page, so I was grouping a whole bunch of stuff together. And and at one point I had all of the previous weeklies grouped together so that I would, like, when I went to the binder clip, it would just open to the right page, the page for the right week. But then I couldn't see any of the previous weeks, and I like being able to look back. I just kind of like, sometimes like when I'm on the train or something, I like kind of flipping through and seeing like what was going on in previous weeks. So I did that for a while, and then I didn't really like it. So in the end, I've arrived at this system, which I'm very happy with, although who knows, like maybe it will have changed again next time. But these are like really strong, durable tabs. I got them at Ryman's. They're made by Post-it, and they're different colors. These are the 3 different colors that they have. And I'm using these, so there's like pink, orange, and yellow. And they're really strong, but they're also writable. So I wrote on, let's see, month, week, and notes. And so they're repositionable as well. So I put them on the page before the one I want, and then when I open the tab, it just flips to the right month. And then I open the week tab and it flips to the right week. And then I open the notes tab and it flips to the page that I'm currently working on. Like, so I should really move this so that it flips to the newest blank page. You see, that's how it works. That works really well because these are like, they're sturdy, they don't get damaged, but you know, like, they're lightweight, they don't bend the paper, they're great. And then in the top I've got similar ones. It's the same same design, and it's also by Post-it. It's just that these are a different size. These are wider, because these are my like kind of the beginning of the 2 reference sections. So this says notes, and this flips to the beginning of the notes section, because sometimes I like to see how much left of the weekly pages do I have. So it's like, okay, it goes from here to here. This is where the notes begin, and then this is my current notes page. So like, I don't know, it's kind of satisfying to see like, oh, I've written all of these notes. That's where it begins, and that's where I'm currently up to. And then I have another one for where the reference section starts. And I actually don't need to go to the beginning of the reference section. It's again, it's just nicer to see this is where it starts. If you see, I don't know if you can see that. See where the paper is like all smushed there? That was from one of my ill-fated experiments with the bookmark. It just like kind of messed up the paper. And at the moment, I don't really like this. I want to change this. I've marked the page that I'm currently on in the reference section. So like kind of if I want to make a new reference page, it would start here. I've marked them with these index tabs that I got from an Etsy shop. And I feel like this is more something that belongs in one of my other planners. I just wanted to see how they looked, but they don't look working enough. Not again, like this is not external. It's not like anyone would judge me for this. It's just that I kind of feel like the sort of kawaii theme doesn't really go completely with this. I just like this to be nice and plain and officey. Not that I even work in an office. I don't know why I want it to be like that. So I think that I will put another one of these ones on, of these notes tabs, because I really like this and it's got a bit of color. So yeah, so that's it. So the reference stuff, again, it's kind of hard to show because it has a lot of names, but I've used, so up to day 21, so I've used like kind of 3 weeks worth of like, this is the last month of the diary, but I can always expand backwards if I need more reference pages, because like I said, I think for the notes pages I'm you know, pretty well set up. I don't think there's any danger of running out, and in fact, like the opposite, I'm kind of worried that I'll end up with extra pages, so I can easily expand backwards and just erase this reference title and, you know, like kind of give myself another month of reference materials. So that's how, oh yeah, and then I'm using this very last page of the reference section for forward planning, by which I mean stuff that I can't write down anywhere else because it's too far in advance. So like there's a sort of it's basically just conferences. There are a couple of conferences that I'm expecting to take part in or co-organize that are happening later than the end of this diary. And this is something that I liked in the old Moleskines. They don't have it again this year, but last year's Moleskines and the previous year had a list. They had the next year, like the whole of the next year, just like a vertical calendar, like this format. And so you could just like kind of jot down anything that was due to happen, you know, like way in advance. And I like that, but it's fine. I can just write them down here. And then when I get my new Hobonichi in the spring, I'll transfer these over. So that's it. I don't have anything in any of these back pages. Oh, and then here, I just keep this notebook, which also comes from the Hobonichi shop. It's Tomoe River paper, and the paper is all detachable. And I'm just using this for things like passwords and codes, information that I have to remember that I can transfer from year to year, and this is all work related. So when I first started this, I put in all of my information, like all of my passwords, bank stuff, you know, stuff like relating to my like dog's insurance, da 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 da. And then recently I transferred that out and put it in my personal planner. So this is now all work related. So I just detached the pages that weren't work related, and it kind of bothers me how there's some like, you know, torn out pages now. But I don't know. I might transfer it into another notebook. But for now, I'm keeping it. And I don't have anything in this back pocket. Sometimes I put things in here. If I have something like, very, very rarely, I have like a check that I have to deposit or something, and I will either put that in here or in this flap here or behind here. So yeah, it works really well. There's like lots of room for storage, and I'm happy with this pen configuration at the moment. And because I'm not really putting in stickers or anything, it's not any fatter than it was when I first started using it. I really, really love this as a work planner. For me, it works perfectly. I really like the fact that it's bound, and that I can, at the end of the year, I'll just be able to take it and archive it. So yeah, that's my updated Hobonichi Cousin setup. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!